is this little sheet that I have on the right-hand side. So there's two sides to the paper that I just gave you, but right now we're going to focus on this one, on the one on the left. But I am going to refer, most of you guys I know probably don't even really need this reference sheet, but I know there were a few people that could have used it, so I figured I'd just give it to everybody. So today we are going to learn about equations that don't have numbers in them. What other class do you take where outside of math class where you have a tendency to deal with stuff that doesn't have numbers in it? It's just got letters. Where? Physics. Yeah, physics. There you go. Yay! Yeah, math, any science. Yeah, there's a lot. So any type of science, you do a lot of formulas, right? So that is the real life application of what I'm showing you how to do right now. It might seem kind of pointless at first because we're getting ready to just move letters around, but this is something you definitely do in science, so this is a very real-life skill. That is why these are called literal equations, is what they're called, because they literally mean something, okay? In physics, sometimes you're talking about velocity, sometimes you're talking about wind speed, that kind of stuff. So that is why they're called literal equations, because they don't just mean nothing. Most of these actually mean something. And when they ask you to do something, okay, so when it says solve for a variable, that is their way of telling you to isolate it. So that A is the variable that we're interested in. And all we're really going to do is just move the letters around to get the A by itself. Yes, sir. Gosh, you're stealing my thunder, but you're right, and I love it. I'm here for it. Okay, you're exactly right. So that means that we need to get rid of that D that is sitting there with the A, because our goal is that we want to get the A by itself. And so, yes, sir, you are so spot on. Okay, if I look, when you've got an A sitting next to a D, anytime you have two letters sitting next to each other, that implies multiplication. Okay, if you don't remember that, I gave you this handy little reference sheet, and you can actually see right here, where do I see two letters sitting next to each other? Right here to represent multiplication, right? So this reference sheet also tells you not only the operations and how we might list them out, but it also tells you the inverse or the opposite of all of them. So what is the inverse for multiplication? Division, exactly. So friends, what that means, oh, that was ugly. Let me try to write that again. Okay, so we've got A sitting next to a D, which implies multiplication. So in order to get the A isolated, we are going to do the inverse, the opposite operation. Rashad already knows, by doing division. So how do we represent division in big kid math? With a fraction bar. I'm going to rewrite this over to the side so that it's kind of free of the annotation here. So I'm going to make a fraction bar, and I'm going to divide off the D. Okay, so because I was multiplying by D, but then I turned around and divided by D, now they've canceled each other out. So I have my A nice and isolated now, exactly like I wanted it to be. However, I have violated the golden rule of equations. The number one thing you have to remember about an equation is that it has to stay balanced. So right now, and I'm going to zoom in on the top here real quick. So remember, if you do something to one side of the equal sign, it's going to be lopsided if you don't do the same thing to the other side. So we have to do the same thing here. We divided the right-hand side by D. So we're going to divide the left-hand side by D. Now, we don't know what the letter F is valued at, and we don't know what the letter D is valued at either. So because we don't know what they are, we can't do anything else. We can't do F divided by D because we don't know what their numeric value is. So if you're doing a delta math, which you will be doing in a minute, this is all you can do. That is your answer. So when you are solving a literal equation, all you're doing is rearranging it so that you can get the variable isolated that they tell you to isolate. So you're really not learning anything you don't already know how to do. You're just doing it with letters instead of numbers. What am I getting ready to isolate? The A again. Yep, because it says solve for A. So when I get finished, I need an A equals. Now pay attention when you are solving equations. You need to focus on the sign that's in the front of the letter that you're trying to get rid of, not the one that is behind it. Okay, remember red means no. Okay, so subtraction and a negative number really are the same thing, because if you're adding negativity to something, you're like taking it away at the same time. So what do you think is going to be the inverse or the opposite of a minus G?
Positive.
A positive G. You're so on point. Correct. Okay, so I'm going to cancel out. You can think of it as subtraction or a negative. Doesn't matter, means the same thing. The inverse is addition. Great thinking. So I'm going to put that minus G and that plus G together, and they're going to poof, cancel each other out. So now I have my A nice and isolated like I need it to be. But if this were on a balance beam, oh, it'd be all lopsided and crazy. Why? Because I didn't do what? I didn't do it on the other side too. Excuse me. So, do I know what the letter N is? I do not. Do I know what the letter G is worth? I do not. So I can't do anything else. I cannot subtract an N minus a G because I don't know what their values are. So that is all I'm going to do for the second one. Gosh, yes, thank you. Doggone it. Thanks, Rashad. You know, that was a test. That was a test to see whether or not y'all were paying attention. He's like the only one that passed. Oh, you did? Okay, why didn't you tell me I was wrong? Thank you very much. My B. Sorry, folks at home. There you go. Just tell Rashad thanks. Okay, anybody not okay if I scroll up for the third one? Okay, so what am I trying to isolate based on the wording of the problem? D. Okay, now there is not anything in front of the F. So in mathematics, when there's nothing there, we just know that that means it's going to be a positive. Okay, that's a plus F. How do you think I'm going to cancel out a plus F? By doing a minus F. You are exactly right. Minus or negative means the same thing. Okay, so those two F's are going to cancel each other out. I have my isolated D, but again, my equation is out of balance because I have not done the same thing on the other side. I don't know what N is equal to. I don't know what F is equal to. So this is all I can do. Anybody not okay if I show you the last one so I can shut up and get out of your face? Oh, oops. Beans. Last one. All right, so what variable am I going to, what variable am I going to isolate? The D. How do I cancel out a D, or how am I going to cancel out, what is that? What's that line mean? Division. What's the opposite of division? Multiplication. All right, so I'm going to multiply the left-hand side to cancel out that division. What I do to one side, I must do to the other side. Now, this is technically correct if I say J with a dot in between it and an F.
Yeah.
Okay?
We don't do that.
But, well, you could. Like, I'm not wrong, but in my head, I always picture this like petty, like cranky, like old white man, kind of like my dad, who is just real petty. I love my dad, but he's your stereotypical like cranky old white man. And that guy makes up rules in mathematics, in my opinion, including things like this, where they said, this is right, but it's not really the way we want it. In math, typically that picky person wants it as short as you possibly can, called simplest form. So even though this isn't wrong, get in the habit of representing multiplication with variables like that. Just because it's shorter. So typically that is what they're going to want you to do. I also could have done parentheses. There's several different ways that I could have represented that multiplication, but get in the habit of writing it the shortest way that you possibly can.